Trojans, the Office of Graduate and Adult Education would like to invite you to join us on Thursday, April 11th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the second floor of Jernigan for Spring Semester Grad Fair. As always, we will be having free Chick-fil-A, and if you're a senior that submits an application to one of our programs, you'll be given the opportunity to enter the raffle for a $250 Visa gift card. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn about our unique master programs at Trevecca, and you also have the opportunity to speak with different faculty members from each one of our programs. Don't miss out on this opportunity, and we're waiting for you to join us for this event.
Hey Trevecca, we're part of the ISC Council, and we wanted to invite you guys to Taste the Nations on Friday, April 12th at 6 p.m. at TCC.
Tickets will be sold at the cap for $2, and for more information, you can follow us on Instagram at ISC Trevecca.
Hope to see you there.
Yo, what's up? Boonaroos happening April 13th, Saturday. It's the best event of the year. I made a playlist so y'all can learn the artist music. That'll be posted soon on the Instagram, so just keep checking. And come on out, invite everybody. It doesn't have to be Trevecca students, so bring your friends.
Good morning. Welcome to chapel. Good Thursday morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with a discussion question. We can throw that up. What's a current area of personal growth you are working on? If you're not ready to go that deep this morning, I also have an alternative. What is the superior Coke? Is it regular Coke or Diet Coke? And why is it regular? All right, we're going to get started with the time of worship. If y'all would stand and worship with us. I saw Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover. But the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. So the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. Yes, my praise belongs to you forever. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify about Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Together, sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son, and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Yes, our God will finish what He started. 'Cause this is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story, I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony, this is my testimony. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story, I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. Oh, this is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story, I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony, this is my testimony.
Call you faithful for the promises you've kept and every need you've met. Lord, I'm so grateful you were with me every step, and I never will forget. 'Cause when I think of how you've blessed me, how your hand has never let me go, never let me Lord, we are so grateful for your faithfulness this morning. And we pray that you would be with us in every step that we take when we leave this place. May your goodness fill our lives and the lives of those around us. In your name we pray, amen.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good to see you this morning. I'm Peg Cooning. I'm Vice President for University Engagement, and it is my honor to be able to introduce our special guest speaker for chapel today, and the person that made it possible that we have this chapel today. Today's chapel is part of something called the Sloniker Lecture Series. This is a series that is funded by an endowment that was established by Dr. Bill Sloniker, Trevecca class of 1953. Woohoo! Its purpose is to help us bring chapel speakers from various professions, businesses, medical, the arts, other professions. And Dr. Sloniker and his son Chris are here today. Can we thank him for bringing our chapel speaker today? Well, today's chapel speaker is Dr. Mark Whitaker. Mark is currently the Vice President of Care and Culture at Coca-Cola Consolidation, and previously served in various high-profile executive leadership roles in international companies. I had the pleasure of meeting Mark here in the fall at an event that was held here, and we sat together at the table. I heard his amazing testimony, and I thought he needs to come and share with our Trevecca students. His testimony is incredible, and I think he's going to be sharing more of that today. Before coming to Christ, Mark received national attention as the highest level corporate executive in the U.S. history to become an FBI informant and a whistleblower in a major company that he worked for. They even made a movie about his experience called The Informant, and some guy called Matt Damon played Mark. I don't know who that guy is. Anyway, we checked with Mark, and we thought it might be fun to introduce him partly in a way. So here's Mark Damon playing Mark Whitaker in The Informant. Let's take a look.
What I'm about to tell you, it involves something very large.
Everyone in this country is a victim of corporate crime by the time they finish breakfast.
Yes. Things are going on I don't approve of. I mean, I feel real bad about that. Corn goes in one end and profit comes out the other. Weird, right? It's not just lysine, it's citric, it's gluconate. There was a guy who left the company because he wouldn't do it. He was forced out. The gluconate guy, he's out of a job.
Would you be willing to wear a wire? We need your help.
7:30 a.m. I am approaching the entrance to the office.
Good morning, Liz Taylor, secretary.
You don't really need to narrate the tapes for us when you're
Absolutely.
making them. Just
Not a problem.
once it starts, it is going to be intense.
What is he doing?
I told him the camera was in the lamp.
No. No.
How about this guy, Whitaker? The guy's making $350 grand a year, and he turns informer. When does that happen?
Mark Whitaker, secret agent 0014.
Why 0014?
Because I'm twice as smart as 007.
Oh, no.
They will make me the next president of ADM.
How can you possibly stay there when you've just taken down the company?
Because they need me to run the company.
That's completely illogical.
Mark showed you that 4 white guys in suits getting together in the middle of the day, that's not a business meeting, it's a crime scene.
There's something you're not telling us.
Why would I hide anything from you guys?
We're going to find out what's going on, Mark. FBI. What the heck is going on here?
Mr. Whitaker, would you please come with me?
Oh, yeah, I was good, right? Didn't I seem really scared? Yeah, listen, I actually felt scared. I want you to keep this secret. Absolutely. Don't tell us anything. It's very important to you, Casey, not discuss this with anyone else. I'm a person of interest in an ongoing investigation.
Oh my God.
You guys still think I'm going to be okay at the company, right? I mean, you guys are going to take down the bad guys, but I'll be okay, right?
Well, I think the corporate culture is going to change a little bit for you.
I should say so. Listen, I haven't been telling you guys the whole truth, but I'm gonna clear that up in there today.
What?
No, we gotta get Jenna here.
Well, that was fun. I want to watch that movie again. It's been a while. Anyway, we are thrilled to have Mark here with us today and share more of that experience and how God has intervened. So we want a good Trevecca welcome for Dr. Mark Whitaker this morning. Please join me.
I am so honored and privileged to be here. And I was in the same room in September, as Peg said, and what a blessing it is to be back here and share, and especially with our future leaders in our country. So I just love talking to young people, and I thought about myself even the years when I was in college like yourself, and I was at Ohio State for my bachelor's and master's degree, got my PhD in biochemistry from Cornell University in New York, and you know, I didn't know God, and I got caught up in the world, and I'm going to share that because it's been quite a transformation the last 3 decades, for me. And by the way, you can see Matt Damon looks just like me. They chose my identical twin there. And what's interesting, my wife and I got to share the gospel with Matt Damon and his wife, and I tell you, they were encouraged to see how our marriage survived what it survived, which I'll talk a little bit about that as we share here this morning. But basically, my wife and I met when we were in 7th grade and 8th grade, went to our high school proms together. We grew up near Cincinnati, Ohio, near called the Kings Island Amusement Park that actually started at Kings Island Amusement Park when I was in high school. My wife and I worked there during the summers when we were off school. Then we both went to Ohio State University, and that's where I got my bachelor's and master's. She became a school teacher. Then I got my PhD in biochemistry at Cornell. Only child out of 4 to go to college, and went 8 years straight, full scholarship for 8 years. But one thing that's interesting is I grew up in a Christian home. My mom, 91 years old, still lives near us today, and we see her several times a week and spend a lot of time with her on the weekends. But she's 91, so I grew up in a Christian home. But when I went to Ohio State and Cornell University, I wish I would have went to a college like this. Because by the time I went to Ohio State and Cornell, never met one Christian professor in 8 years. Not one. And when I got to Cornell, the Ivy League, boy, I heard plenty of professors, especially in the sciences, biochemistry, which is about evolution and Darwinism and Big Bang Theory and nothing about God. I had professors at Cornell say, if you're a Christian, you can't be a PhD scientist. I had one professor in physics say, if you're a Christian, you can't be in my class. So I remember telling my friends at Cornell in my early 20s, when I was getting my PhD, I started at 22 and finished at 25. I remember telling my friends, yeah, my parents are Christians because they didn't go to college, they didn't know better. That's where my head was at. And I remember Ginger, she worked for Carl Sagan in the astrophysics, my wife did, right across where our department was, the biochemistry, and I said all those were a bunch of nerds. Could you imagine a PhD biochemist calling the astrophysics nerds? We were all nerds at that time. But I remember she got invited to a Bible study, and she came and told me during lunch, and this was when I was getting my PhD, and she said, hey, I got invited to Bible study. I'd really like to learn more about this. I said, Ginger, I got professors that are up for Nobel Prizes. God doesn't exist. Don't do this. So I remember even talking my wife out of it, even at that point, to consider God. So that's where I was. So when I graduated in 1983, the biotech industry was exploding. It's when Genentech started, and all the pharmaceutical companies were building biotech divisions. And so, I mean, there were 10 jobs for every person graduating with a PhD biochemistry in 1983. And I remember I started off with a 6-figure job right out of college, and that's 1983. So we bought our first home. We bought our first time a washer and dryer instead of quarters in a laundromat. Bought our first time a second car. We did because we got married in between Ohio State and Cornell. After I finished my master's, we got married before I moved on to Cornell in New York. So, life was like, I said, this is what I've studied for. And I just thought about wanting to be a CEO of one of the largest companies in the world, and that was my target. This is an example of selfish leadership, because I feel strongly there's 2 choices, selfish leadership or servant leadership? And I've seen both in my life, but what I'm sharing now is example of selfish leadership. And so within 7 years from the time I graduated, lived 4 years in Germany, vice president responsible for acquisitions and mergers of a large company in Germany, and I was doing joint ventures with a company called ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, $70 billion company, number 56 on the Fortune 500. And I can remember I was 2 years in New York with the company I was with prior, called Evonik, and big chemical company in Germany, 2 years in New York, 4 years in Germany. And I can remember the CEO of ADM, after working with him for a couple years on a joint venture, he was 75 years old, I was 32. And he said, Mark, why don't you just join us and come with us? I said, I can't imagine leaving Degussa. And I spent, probably 20 minutes telling him all the reasons why I would never leave. And then he asked me what my salary was, and I had to kind of calculate, because it was in Deutschmarks then. It was even before the euros existed in 1989. We were actually there even when the wall was taken down between East Germany and West Germany. We have a piece of that on our shelf, and our youngest son was born there in Germany. So he made a comment. He said, Mark, what's your salary? And I calculated like US dollars. I said, well, with bonuses, base salary, everything, Deutschmark to US dollar, it'd be about $400,000 total compensation as vice president responsible for acquisitions, mergers, and joint ventures. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a base salary of that, but I'll give you a bonus potential that's 10 times that, and bonuses that are attainable. And he said, I'll give you a corporate jet the day you start. And I said, where do I sign? After I spent all that time telling him I'd never join his company. So yeah, I came home and told my wife in Germany, I said, Ginger, let's pack the 3 kids up. We're moving to Decatur, Illinois. She said, why? I thought we were staying in Europe. And I said, I just got a job offer I couldn't refuse. She said, you didn't do it for the money, did you? And so we moved to Decatur, Illinois, and I remember my first week there in October of '89, the CEO came back, the 75-year-old CEO, the president was 71, and I was 32, and I was ranked number 4 executive. I was president of the biotech division and corporate vice president of the whole company at 32, ranked number 4 executive. So he came back, took me out to the hangar, and gave me a Falcon 50. I had that for about 8 years. Falcon 50, the 3rd week he came back and he said, Mark, you moved your family to Germany, to United States yet? I said, well, they're going to move in December when the school year ends, and this was October. So we're talking to realtors, looking at homes. He said, why don't you buy my home? I said, well, tell me about your home. He said, well, it's 13,000 square feet. He was a billionaire, by the way. He was 35 years CEO at ADM, and he owned 5% of a $70 billion company. So he was a billionaire. And he said he lived in the home for about 30 years. It was the home of John Daniels, who founded Archer Daniels Midland 100 years earlier. He started telling me it's 13,000 square feet, has an 8-car garage, has 3 golf greens on the property, has horse riding stables with an inside arena where your kids can ride an inside arena. So I'm hearing all this. I'm 7 years out of college. I said, well, I think that may be for later on, but I don't think I could buy a home like that right yet. And he said, nonsense. This is my 3rd week there. He said, I'll give you a startup bonus today. That'll be your down payment. And he said, I know all the banks, a couple of the banks I even own in Decatur. I'll make some phone calls and get you a good interest rate. And I look back, we probably should have went to prison for that, some of the things that happened in that deal. So I bought that home my 3rd week, 13,000 square foot house, 9 bedrooms, 8-car garage, horse riding stables. I was Justin Bieber before Justin Bieber. I really was. My own jet, lived in a mansion. And I was caught up in it. Now, during the same time, just a couple years earlier, my wife's mom got real sick. Ginger was 30. Her mom was 52. And she was in the hospital for 10 months and barely survived it. 10 months in the hospital. She got down to 80 pounds. Ginger sat by her side those 10 months. And the nurse, a Christian, was pouring into Ginger and her mom every day. Ginger became a Christian during this time, right shortly before, a few years before I joined ADM. And I remember Ginger come home and tell me, she said, Mark, I believe in God. And I said, Ginger, I'm a PhD scientist from an Ivy League university. God does not exist. I had some of the best professors in the world in the sciences. God doesn't exist. It's a myth. She said, Mark, I'm telling you, you're wrong. You can take that PhD and shove it. God exists and Jesus is the Son of God. And she became a Christian. And she got very active in our church and very active in her Bible studies and leading women Bible studies. And just like I was obsessed with corporate America, she was obsessed with Jesus and was following Jesus. So she came to this house a couple months after I bought it. When they moved in December, she said, we sure didn't need anything like this. So like I said, it was a mansion, a home like Bill Gates would live in. So what does a 32-year-old do with an 8-car garage when you're full of yourself? You fill it up. So the bonuses alone, I mean, I was earning $2.5 to $3 million a year with base salary and bonuses, and that's in 1989. So I could buy a car just with 1 month's bonus. And I had a Ferrari, 2 BMWs, 2 Mercedes. Like I said, look out, Bon Jovi, here I come. And I remember I had a red Ferrari. I bought the same one Magnum PI had. And I remember telling my wife, I said, Ginger, she's driving a 10-year-old Grand Cherokee, 10 years old. And I've got 8 cars, $2 million of cars in the garage. I said, Ginger, let me buy you a yellow Ferrari. And I remember Ginger said, no. She said, I want to be a good steward for God. And my car's fine. I probably got another 5 years on it. I didn't even know what that meant. It was like hearing Latin. All I wanted was my Ferrari. And I didn't know what that meant when she wanted to be a good steward for God. But those are the kind of comments. We were definitely unequally yoked during that time. So let's fast forward now. A couple years with the company. The CEO came back and he said, look, Mark, he's now 77. The president that was 69 when I started is now 71. He said, Mark, we're getting a lot of pressure because publicly traded, a lot of pressure about succession planning. So we're going to do an interview with Fortune magazine and share that someone 10 years older than me, who was 44, going to be the next CEO in a few years, and Mark, you to be the next COO and president. So to go from divisional president to company president, to go to the number 2 executive in the 56th largest company on the Fortune 500, a $70 billion company. I thought, boy, I'd step on my own grandma to get that job. I mean, I was into it. I really was. So about a couple days later, he came back and he said, now, Mark, you're 2 years with us. You're part of the family. You're going to be the next COO in a couple years, next COO and president. But I got to share with you some things that we're doing in the company. And he started sharing with me about a price fixing scheme that they were getting together with their competitors and fixing the prices of ingredients that go into all your foods. That would be in iced teas and orange juices and Pillsbury and Kellogg's and Kraft. ADM, the largest food additive company in the world, with plants all around the world. And he said, we've been doing this for about 12 years. We've not shared it with you, but now that you're part of the family, but Mark, you're at the age, you eventually got to take this over. And I was just told I will be the next COO and president. I'm going from $2.5, $3 million with bonuses to $10 million a year when that job happens. So I thought I'll do whatever it takes. And I said, now that's not legal. And he said, Mark, everybody does it. In the commodity business, this is the way business is done, and we've done it for 12 years. So I thought, well, he's 30 years plus as CEO. He knows a lot better than me. So I started being mentored and going to these international cartel meetings and fixing the prices of ingredients and working with our competitors instead of competing with our competitors, which is taking capitalism out. It's breaking antitrust laws is what it's doing. So 7 months later, my wife, November 5th, 1992, she says, Mark, I've known you since you were in 8th grade, and something you're not telling me. I said, Ginger, everything's good, everything's great. She said, no, you're on the phone all hours of the night that you were not on the first 2 years with ADM. Something's changed. And I made a comment to Ginger that I said, well, I'm on the phone at night because I'm talking to a lot of people in Southeast Asia, and Japan, and Korea. And 8 o'clock at night, Decatur, Illinois is 8 o'clock in the morning, their time. So that's why I'm on the phone a lot at night the last few months. She said, well, who are you talking to? And I named some companies, Ajinomoto, Kiwahaku. She said, well, those are your competitors. Why would you talk to them? I said, well, our company's been working with them, and now they're mentoring me to take that over. But as a result, I'm going to become the next president of the company. I'll go from divisional president to company president in a few years. So I have to do this, and they've been doing it for 12 years. She said, Mark, is that legal? I said, well, it's not legal, but everybody does it. And if you're in the commodity business, they said, this is the way you got to do business. She said, Mark, I don't know if I can live it. She said, that sounds like a fraud. She said, how much does the company earn doing this? I said, we earn about $1 billion a year extra. Out of our $70 billion in revenue, $4 billion in profit, about $1 billion from the international cartel. She said, that's outright fraud. She said, who pays for this? And I said, basically the consumers. When they go to the grocery store, they buy $50 worth of groceries. They pay $3 or $4 extra. That's it for the ingredients that are price fixed. She said, you mean my grandma on $200 a week Social Security is paying for this, and we live in a mansion with an 8-car garage flying around in a corporate jet? She said, I don't know if I can live with this, Mark. I said, Ginger, our kids go to private schools. We're making millions. We can have anything we want to have. We can go anywhere we want to go. This is what we got to do. This is the way it is in corporate America. She said, well, fraud's not a normal way of corporate America, and I don't think I can live with it. And I said, Ginger, we're going to have to live with it. This is what I got to do to keep moving up the corporate ladder. Then she said she was going to pray about it. We talk about it later. When she told me she was going to pray about it, I knew I was in trouble, because there was nothing that ever turned out good for me when she went and prayed about it. So she went and prayed for a couple hours. She came back and she said, Mark, God led her to a decision. I just wanted to get that conversation over as quick as we could. And she said, God led her to turn me into the FBI. I said, Ginger, I could go to prison for breaking antitrust laws. I said, the CEO is best friends with President Clinton. He went to President Nixon's funeral on President Clinton's plane. They're talking 2 or 3 times a month. Our CEO, who lived in our house for 30 years, is best friends with President Clinton. She said, I don't care. God will protect us. We're going to do it. We're going to do it today. So we had a couple hour argument, and I've known her since she was in 7th grade. She won the argument. That same day, we're meeting 4 hours with the FBI. I don't know how many of you ever went to the FBI and told them you're stealing $1 billion a year, but it's an interesting reaction. I mean, it reached Janet Reno, the Attorney General. William Sessions, the Director of FBI. Became the largest price-fixing case in U.S. history. Started by my wife, a stay-at-home mom of 3 children. Started the biggest price-fixing case that was going on for 12 years. So after we shared with the FBI, and I can remember the FBI interview and said, Mark, now what are we talking about here? And I said, you got all these drug dealers in Decatur. I don't feel safe here. I'm divisional president of one of the biggest companies in the world. And you got a lot more important things to do to me than talk to me. He said, well, what are we here for then? I said, you got all these drug dealers. I used that like 6 times, that line. And Ginger said, a fraud. He said, a fraud? How much money's involved? And I said, you got all these drug dealers in Decatur, Illinois. I don't feel safe. So many things you could be doing. And Ginger said, $1 billion. He said, $1 million. She said, no, $1 billion. He said, how long's that been going on? I used that same line. You got all these drug dealers in Decatur. And she said, it's been going on for 12 years. So he got all the truth out of Ginger quickly. And they gave me a choice to either be arrested that day or wear a wire for the FBI the next day. And I sure didn't want to be arrested at 34 years of age and being divisional president of one of the biggest companies in the world. So I said, I'll wear a wire. So they wired me up at 6 in the morning. FBI agent shaved my chest, put microphones on my chest. I had a tape recorder attached to my back with an athletic band wrapped around to hold it up. And then 2 other recorders, one in a briefcase and a notebook. And I wore that wire every day for the FBI for 3 years. They wired me up at 6 in the morning every day for 3 years. And there's a documentary, which is even a lot more, the movie's fun and entertaining, but the documentary is even a lot more accurate. The FBI was so upset with the accuracy of the movie, they did a documentary to combat the movie 3 months later after the movie came out. And that's on my website, markwhitaker.com, on Discovery Channel. And that's the 3 real FBI agents, the prosecutor, my wife and I, and all the real people involved. And in that documentary, the FBI make it clear. They said, Mark, if these guys catch you, they're going to kill you. This is serious stuff. This is billions of dollars. People are going to go to prison. Billionaires are involved. International cartel. You will be killed if they know you're wearing a wire. So that's the kind of pressure I was for 3 years. I lost 60 pounds wearing a wire. People at work would say, Mark, you have cancer. You got to go see a doctor. And really, I was falling apart by wearing that wire every day from morning till evening for 3 years. So the FBI was and by the way, there was a green lamp that had the video camera in it. And this green lamp with the video camera, the prosecutors wanted to make sure they knew ADM was one of the biggest companies in the world. So they wanted to show a jury what was going on, not just the audio tapes I had. So the big meetings, when we got together with our competitors a couple times a month, had a video a lamp, a green lamp. Looks like it came from a yard sale. And that green lamp with the video camera in it was at the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore, $1,000 night hotel, and it looked like it came from a yard sale. 3 weeks later, it was at the Mandarin Hotel in Hong Kong. Same 11 guys. A few weeks after that, it was at the Four Seasons Hotel in Chicago. Same green lamp, same 11 guys. Then it was in Hawaii In Maui, Hawaii, same green lamp, same 11 guys. I look back and I say, thank God that we did not have a woman criminal among us. But I tell you, greed absolutely blinds you. They didn't see that green lamp till a trial came about, 7-week trial in Chicago, and that green lamp was brought in by the prosecutors to show how the evidence was collected. And then they hit their head and they remembered the green lamp that was 5 feet from them. That green lamp was at 2 or 3 meetings a month for 3 years in different countries with the same 11 individuals. So FBI was so pleased with all the evidence. They gave me a deal of a lifetime. They said, Mark, everybody's going to go to prison for several years. You're going to get 6 months in prison. Plea agreement for 6 months. 6 months in prison. A Martha Stewart sentence. White collar camp, no fence. You go 6 months, you come out. I would have went by the time I wore a wire 3 years. Now I'm almost 38. I would have went at 38 and come out at 38. Deal of a lifetime. A friend of my lawyer, and the lawyer said, Mark, you got 48 hours to sign this plea agreement. Best deal in the world. Sign it. I looked at Ginger and said, I don't think I can go to prison for 6 months. I just wore a wire for 3 years. She said, Mark, sign it. This is a deal of a lifetime. I looked at Ginger and said, Ginger, it's all your fault. I'm in this mess because of you. I had to wear a wire, Ginger, for 3 years because of you, and I'm going to do the opposite you want me to do. And I took that plea agreement, ripped it up, threw it in the trash can, fired the lawyer who recommended it, hired another whole group of lawyers the next day, and fought the case through the courts for 3 years to get 8.5 years instead. And I had a 6-month sentence. All I had to do was sign. I was my own worst enemy every step of the way. With an 8-year sentence, 8.5 years that I had to do, I pulled my car in one of those garages, wrote a letter to Ginger and my kids, and I tried to kill myself. I did not want to live. I thought I wouldn't have a family when I got out. Who's going to hire me from employment when you get out? 8 years in prison was not an option. Because now I'm 40. I'm 38. I fought the case for almost 3 years. So I'm 40 and about ready to go to prison for 8 years. So I tried to take my own life, tried to kill myself. The judge gave me 7 months to get back on my feet, get stabilized. And I thought even during that time when the first suicide attempt didn't work, I'll find a way and I will make it work. And a guy showed up and knocked on my door a month after I attempted suicide, 7 months before I went to prison, and he was CFO of a pharmaceutical company, a stranger. I didn't know him, and he said, Mark, prison's going to be the beginning of your life, and you're going to find your true purpose in your life with the journey you're ready to start. I said, Ian, how is that possible? He said, Mark, I'm telling you, you're going to find your true purpose. He said, I want to take you through a Bible study and introduce you to God. And I said, Ian, I grew up, my parents are Christians. I heard 8 years of college, there is no God. So I don't believe in God. Ginger's a Christian, and I go to church often with her and the kids. She forces me to go. So I've already been to church. He said, I'm not talking about church, Mark. I'm talking about a personal relationship with Jesus. And he started spending 6-7 hours a week, introduced me to God and introduced me to Jesus, and started giving me some hope. And then my second week in prison, 7 months after Ian Houses discipled me and gave me hope, I wasn't there yet because I still had that 8 years of college, that science block. But second week of prison, Chuck Colson showed up. Chuck Colson was the White House counsel under President Nixon. And he went to prison in the 1970s, for the Watergate scandal. President Nixon was actually going to prison with him, but President Nixon was pardoned by President Ford. But Chuck Colson went to prison. He became a Christian during that time. His nickname was the Hatchet Man when he was the White House counsel. And it changed his life. He was a different man from age 40 to 80 than he was from 0 to 40. And he became a Christian. He reached out, read about me in the Washington Post, showed up in prison. He said, Mark, have you considered God? Have you gotten to know God and Jesus? I said, I have somebody who's been discipling me for 7 months, Chuck. But I said, I still have a science block. All those years of college tell me that God doesn't exist. He said, Mark, do you think there's a PhD scientist that believes in God? Keep in mind, we didn't have Google searches and all that back then when I was at the university. I said, no, I don't think there is a PhD scientist that believes in God. And he started article after article and book after book, some of the best scientists that believe in God that Cornell University never told me about. Francis Collins, who discovered the human genome, a Christian. Albert Einstein said only God could create the universe and only God could create man. Sir Isaac Newton wrote as much about Jesus as he did about God. Some of the best scientists in the world believe in God, and I was never told that. And then I read a book from a professor in Minnesota who was an atheist and trying to prove, as a PhD biologist, trying to prove God did not exist. And he studied it for 10 years, and he wrote a book, Surprised by Faith. That atheist became a Christian. And I read that. Chuck Colson gave me that. And I read that book after reading all those other articles and books, and I got down on my knees on June 4th, 1998, my 3rd month of prison, and surrendered my life to Jesus for the first time in my life. I thought, how can you be a PhD scientist and not believe in God? And I gave my life to Jesus in June of 98, 26 years ago, a month after I turned 41. And it changed my life and changed my life forever. I was $2.5 to $3 million a year for 8 years. Now I'm $20 a month in prison for 8 years. And they became the most productive years of my life. I became a free man in prison. The prison was that life of the addiction of greed and addicted to all the materialism and cars, and that was prison. I became a free man knowing Jesus in prison. It changed my life. And I started helping inmates get their GEDs. Then I started helping some of them get 2 years degrees in college through correspondence. I started discipling some of them through the same discipleship program Chuck Colson was discipling me, and lots of them became Christians. I couldn't wait to wake up and see what God had in store, and I was earning $20 a month. I found my purpose of my life, and I learned how rewarding servant leadership is, because I never experienced it until I went to prison. Servant leadership is the most rewarding thing you can be a part of, and I've experienced both selfish leadership and servant leadership. So I thought, well, who's going to hire me when I get out? So I learned air conditioning and heating. I spent a lot of time doing that, and I learned it well. During those 8 years, I thought I need to make a living for my family. But biotech companies knew I was in prison, and they came and visited me, 4 of them, and had me review their patents and their strategic plans when I was in prison. And those 4 companies offered me a job the day I got out. And I joined one with a Christian CEO because I didn't want to fall back in that trap of greed and short-term thinking. And so I joined one with a Christian CEO, and I was 10 years there. I started off like someone right out of college, and I became the COO and president. After 4 promotions, I became the COO and president of that company for 10 years, and I'm still on their advisory board still today. And now I've joined Coca-Cola Consolidated. We're not Coca-Cola Atlanta, Coca-Cola Consolidated. I'm vice president of culture and care, and Coca-Cola Consolidated is a bottling company. We actually have a plant right here in Nashville, too. We have 104 plant sites. We have a chaplain in every plant for 23 years. We have a purpose statement. Our purpose to honor God in all we do, by serving others, pursuing excellence, and growing profitably. Think about that. To honor God in all we do by serving others. Our official purpose statement for over 2 decades. And we have dozens of prayer groups and Bible studies and discipleship programs. It's a ministry. It just happens to be in the beverage business. And it's changed and transformed our company to one of the highest retention rates in the beverage industry. We do engagement surveys with our employees, and they say they love to work. Even non-believers say they love because they feel like they're listened to and their supervisor has empathy for them. It has transformed our company. And the most exciting thing to me with our chaplaincy program, which is part of our department in culture and care, chaplain for every plant, we're averaging, for just 23 alone, the most recent year, 1,361 recommits and salvations of our employees. That's 113 recommits and salvations per month of our employees. God is using this company, higher opportunity to hire non-believers. They get introduced to God within 24 hours. And many of them, 113 a month, recommit, where they kind of go from God from their head to heart. And then salvations, too, is part of that. I mean, it's so exciting to be part of that. And I look at the life I have today versus the life I had price fixing and 8-car garage and being Justin Bieber. I tell you, I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than serving God. And we can even do that in the workplace. When I had 8 years of prison, Ginger, when I took that 6-month deal and threw it in a trash can, Ginger said divorce wasn't an option, but murder was. She said that on CBS News. She said murder was an option. She looks back now, and in interviews now, and she was here when I was in September. Our daughter just got operated, so she needed to be with her. But at the event, the same room in September, Ginger was here with me. And Ginger says, thank God I didn't sign that 6-month sentence, that I would have never listened to a Chuck Colson with a 6-month sentence. I needed to be broken, needed to be into myself, even though we didn't know that then. And she was mad, like she said, murder was on the table. We thank God I didn't sign that 6-month sentence because I needed to be broken. The companies that we stole from, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Domino's, Tyson Foods, Purdue Farms, those companies got together. They won $3 billion back from the companies involved in the price fixing. $3 billion. Coca-Cola alone in Atlanta won $400 million alone. Coca-Cola in Atlanta. And those companies got together and gave Ginger a whistleblower reward for turning me in. And that's what financed Ginger when I was in prison, was the whistleblower reward given by the companies I stole from. Put my kids through college and everything. Those companies did. And I work for Coca-Cola Consolidated today, a victim of my case, and I'm vice president of the company and an officer of the company that I was stealing from 35 years ago. Miracle of God. And Ginger and I are married 45 years in June. A marriage that survived 3 years undercover, 8 years of prison, and my wife's the one that turned me in to go to prison, is a miracle. Is a miracle. And I don't take it lightly. I thank God for the journey that he put us on. And I thank God, I feel what I put my wife and kids through, it's amazing and a miracle that they forgive me and still love me today, because I put them through a living hell. The fact they stayed with me is something only God could do. And I'm closer with my wife and my kids. We not only survived, we thrived. Well, I know we need to wrap things up, but I kind of want to leave it with this today, is that I'm a PhD scientist from an Ivy League university. God exists, and Jesus is the Son of God, and I have zero doubts. God bless all of you. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Wow, the transformation story of a former CEO and now CEO of a company that he stole from. I don't know about you all, but I am blown away. I want to thank first Dr. Whitaker again. Please give him another round of applause. Want to also thank Dr. Slonaker and his family for this lecture series so that you could hear how transformation happens. As a professor that teaches financial stewardship and teaching how we manage our resources, I'm just in awe of this story. Thank you so much. And now please just receive this benediction from me this morning. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.